Hi, Justin here with Max Performance Sports in Vancouver, BC, or online at hockeyvancouver.ca. Today I'm here to show you how to apply Toe Pro skate protector to your hockey skates. Toe Pro is basically a liquid protector that goes on wet, dries hard, and is going to protect your skates from all these kind of blemishes, cuts and scrapes. Mainly designed for older generation skates with nylon toes. Not so ideal for plastic toe caps, although we have seen that before. So fairly simple process. All you're going to need is a pair of scissors, fine sandpaper, the Toe Pro itself of course, and your hockey skate or skates, depending if you're doing one or two skates. We do recommend doing both skates just so they're both uniform across the board. And if one isn't beat up, it's going to protect it from getting beat up. So first thing you want to do is you want to find any loose threads you might have on there of nylon. And all you're going to do is just cut them all off. Make sure it's all off there. A little bit cleaner, the better. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, obviously, because you are going to be covering it up. It just helps the Toe Pro go on a little bit smoother. Okay, so once that's all cleaned up, you don't have any gigantic loose threads. We've already done it, but you want to take your Toe Pro, give it a good little shake. And now you are done with your scissors at this point. They can be put away. Give it a good shake. Once it's shaken on, basically, before I do it here, we're gonna take out the cap. It's got a brush on the underside, which is gonna contain all the Toe Pro on it. It can be a little bit messy, so we would advise doing it maybe over an old rag or newspaper, that kind of thing. So there you can see it there. You want kind of that nice consistency coming off the brush, not too lumpy. It is fairly thick, so just give it a good little swirl in there. Once you brush it out, if you have way too much on, just kind of rub it on the side of the lid there. Then you can basically start the process. As you're applicating it here on the Toe Pro, you just want to go nice and light, nothing overly heavy, because you are, in total, you're going to do about 2 to 4 coats. So we like to start with just super light the first time. You can see here it's not overly thick, but it's going to take a lot of brush strokes, but you are going to cover the whole thing, just not overly thick. You're also going to sand between each coat. So if you do go on a little heavy and it gets a little lumpy, you can sand that off, but just go nice and light, then you don't have to sand nearly as much. So the only time you really want to go a little heavier, we find it's easiest if you see big holes like this, big chunks missing out of your fabric, go a little bit heavier in there because you do want to fill those holes as best as possible. If you don't go a little heavier, it's going to be hard to fill the holes. Okay, so we've now got the whole toe applied with our very first coat. You can see in some areas it is a little bit thicker than others, which again, that's okay because that was an area with a lot of holes in the fabric there. So we want to kind of cover it over, make it all smooth. So once that dries, you're going to want to sandpaper off. You want a medium to a fine sandpaper. So we're going to use P80 on this very first coat because again, we do have a few more chunks that we kind of want to work out. You could use anywhere from a P80 probably to a P120. Somewhere in that range, just nice and light, very smooth. And again, you're gonna sand every time you do a coat, 2 to 4 coats total. The only time you probably don't wanna sand is on your final coat, just to give it that nice polished black look rather than kind of sometimes when you sand it will go a little bit cloudy looking. So once it's totally dry, you're gonna go ahead and just start sanding. Again, we're just using a P80. You don't have to use anything crazy rough or anything because you're just, especially on the first one here, it's going to file it down or sand it down nice. Okay, so we've got it pretty much all sanded down here to the point we're happy with for our first coat and then first sanding. Doesn't look great though, so we want a couple more coats and really fill up some of these holes. Exact same as the first coat, but this time since you still have another 2 coats to go after, you don't have to do the whole boot. We're going to more focus on areas that still have the holes in it from the missing fabric. And then on your 3rd or 4th coat, depending on how many coats you think you need or how it's coming, you can then do the whole thing over so it gives a nice glossy, all black finish at the end. And there we are. We're going to leave that now for a couple hours, let it totally dry, and then we'll come back, sand it one more time. In this boot here, I think we're going to end up at only 3 coats and we'll be good to go. Okay, so we've let it dry. We sanded it down completely here. We're just going to give our bottle a little shake and we're going to apply our 3rd and final coat of Toe Pro. For the final pass, we are going to coat the whole toe cap. Try and make it look a little bit better while maintaining its functionality and practicality, because overall it is a repair, or it can also be used on your caps for prevention methods. So I'm going to start applying the third coat, and then we'll be right back with you when it's all dry, and we'll show you the final product of what your final Tow Pro cap is going to look like. Okay, so we've just applied our third and final coat, and it's good to go. All the holes are basically filled. It's a little glossy and wet right now, but once that dries, it's going to be a nice smooth overlay. And for yourself, if you've done 3 coats and you're still not happy, give it one more sand and then polish up with a 4th coat is totally acceptable. All it's going to do is just make it a little bit stronger and more durable. And as always, if you have any questions, you can call the shop here at 1778-379-4664, or you can visit us online at www.hockeyvancouver.ca, where we have the Tow Pro listed, or any other products or answers you might need to your questions can be found online. Thank you very much, and until next time, YouTube.
Let it totally dry. Like toe.
Oh!